So here's an outline of the flow of today's training. Whether you're a beginner or managing your RingCentral system, at managing it, or you're a veteran, today's training is going to have something for everyone. So I do encourage you to take the time now to log into your own RingCentral admin portal, follow along, and submit any questions you have in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar software. So we've got actually multiple experienced project managers on this webinar as panelists, people who have deployed RingCentral, configured it, supported it even as techs, and ported and deployed, trained on it, all those things. So we're very experienced folks on this call to answer Q&As, and that can be a great way to get questions answered even before the Q&A. So fire away, and we'll decide whether certain things will be answered live or via wait for the end of webinar Q&A. One other thing, note that this particular class is focused on the UCaaS admin portal, not the RingCentral Contact Center. We've said that in the past, but if you do have contact center questions, feel free to post them. We'll help you there too, because we have a lot of experience with that platform too, sitting on this call. If during the RingCentral training, you think of a RingCentral service ticket that you need escalated, chat us about that too. We can get working on it literally while we're on the call. That's one of the services that we offer with our client success team. All right. Without any further ado, our RingCentral trainer today is the ultra experienced and ultra awesome Matt Huguet. Matt, please say a little bit about yourself and then take it away.
You bet. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the brief introduction there. As Tim mentioned, my name is Matt Huguet. I've been at Matrix for 27 years. Worked on a lot of different phone systems over the years, but the last 10 years or so, I've done a lot of RingCentral, so I have a lot of experience. I recognize a lot of you on the call today from past project we've worked on, migrating to RingCentral, things like that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in, share my screen here, and we'll get rolling. All right, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see that, Tim? Good to go?
Yep, good to go.
Perfect. All right, first thing we're going to talk about, when you first log into the RingCentral portal, service.ringcentral.com, it's going to bring you to the main admin portal screen. This is kind of the home screen here. There are a lot of shortcuts that you can use on this screen. Primarily the ones I use the most are right here. If I need to call support, you guys may know already, your main phone number on the account, that is the number that support is looking for when you call into support, okay? There's a few other options down here. There is a community you can reach out to, look, there's some community stuff going on where there's questions and answers, people trying to do things, chatting back and forth. You can open web cases straight from this home panel, okay? The RingCentral University is RingCentral's training platform. A lot of good videos, a lot of good things to learn about, new features and stuff that are constantly coming out from RingCentral as things change in this portal and their product evolves. There is a service status shortcut. So if you are having service issues, things that are maybe happening oddly on your system, you can go check their service status and see if anything is happening on their platform at that given particular time. Okay, there's also a what's new section that will walk you through and show you features and different things that have been added to the portal recently, okay? Some other things, there are some quick access shortcuts here for the users section of the portal, the phone numbers, phones and devices. Primarily, I'm using these tabs up here, usually when I'm navigating my way through the portal, okay? Today, I think we're going to probably start here in the phone system section. We're going to talk briefly about a few of the options in the phone system section, excuse me, and then we'll jump into the users section. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump into the phone system section here. Some of you may have multiple sites. Some of you may have a single site, okay? It depends on how your system has been set up. If you do have multiple sites, you're going to see them right here, and you have the ability to add new sites. The main site, unfortunately, this name is not changeable. It's always called the main site, and it's usually your home main location for the business. If you have sub-sites spread across the country or even around the world, those would be listed here. Simple settings inside here, you've got addresses and caller ID. This can be updated on the fly if you need to. Same settings for any sub-sites you have. Phone number section. all phone numbers. This is going to show you every single phone number that is on your account, whether it's in use or it's in inventory. It's going to list them all, and it tells you, if I scroll down here, it's like I've got this expanded quite a ways. So if we scroll down here, it's going to tell you what type of phone number it is. If it's a direct number, if it's a company number, you're going to get the details. This is fully searchable for any number you're looking for. You can filter this down using the little filter here by the type of number, particular site you're looking at, or particular location. If you do search for a number, it's burned to me before and I haven't realized it was a company number. So I'm searching for it, doesn't come back with a match. These numbers up here aren't actually searchable. So you can click into a number and they can be named. So if you want to go in here and take some time, you got a special number that does something special, you can come in here and name these numbers, and then that would become searchable. For your main numbers, you can click on them and in here and do the same thing. You also have a main fax number that comes with the account. Okay, this will just limit it down to the numbers that are in use at the particular time. And then if you have any numbers in inventory, as you can see here on our system, we don't currently have any numbers in inventory. If you put a number in inventory, it's basically like a storage location. The number actually turns it non-workable. So if somebody does call it, they just get a message saying this number is not in service at this time. When you do need to use it, and we'll talk about adding a new user here in a second, you can pull numbers out of your inventory to add when you set up a new user, or you can go in here if you have them and actually assign them to a call queue or wherever else you may need them in the portal. Okay. Last couple sections I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but this is where you port in phone numbers. Me being the lead project manager here at Matrix, I spend a lot of time in this when I'm onboarding new clients, porting in phone numbers. It will walk you through. There's a simple process. It does take quite a bit of detail and data to port in phone numbers. But if you need help with anything like that, please reach out to your rep at Matrix, and we can definitely help with those kind of requests. The auto receptionist section. This section kind of correlates with company info. Each site that you have in company info will also have its own general settings section in the auto receptionist. Usually when you have separate sites, you can have your phone numbers point at those particular sites. So if you can see here, we have two, our main site and our land intelligence locations down in California. So I've split this up when I set this up because we have different call routing rules based on if the number was a land intelligence number and how it rings into our Matrix system. So the main site, if we click into the main site, it has a few more options, and that option here is the call recording section. We click on land intelligence, you'll notice that section is missing. So anything to do with call recording, on demand, and automatic, you can see here, they're all turned on at Matrix Networks. You do have the ability to go in and select which extensions, which devices, which call queues and things you want to record. So anybody that's listed in here are things that are going to get recorded, okay? Schedule, everybody has the ability to set your own schedule. What do you want the on and off hours to be for your particular business? That schedule plays into what's going to happen when a call comes into this particular site. So I said before, numbers can be assigned to the site itself. If they are, that number then follows these incoming call rules based on the schedule. Numbers that are assigned to the site can be used for outbound caller ID by other users on the platform. So if you have a main number to your business and you want your employees, when they call out, to show that phone number as caller ID, it has to be assigned up at the site level in order for the users to be able to send it out as caller ID. Okay, you can see here during business hours, if anybody calls a number assigned to our main site, it's ringing this particular IVR menu. And you get to choose here depending on where you want it to go. Some companies want a live answer and they want to send that down directly to a call queue, which has a number of agents or users in it and gives the ability for that call queue to answer those calls live, talk to a live body instead of hitting an auto attendant first. To do that, you do that in here. You'd simply select a multiple user, a call queue. It'll show you a list of the call queues available, and you go ahead and save that. And then when you're open, calls for when you're open are going to flow into that call queue. Same thing goes. Anything off hours outside of your normal business hours, you go in here and set it. You can see ours is set to the off hours call queue. I'm going to come back to custom rules here in a second. I'm going to jump over to the settings section. In the settings section, these are some default IVR settings, what pound and star do, and what happens if nobody presses a prompt or nobody presses anything inside the IVR. The greeting will play 3 times. Now, what do you want the call to do? Right? We've got ours set to disconnect call, because normally if nobody's pressing a key on in the IVR, if some sort of an automated call, or you have a rotary dial phone and they really need to get a new one. Zero dialing. What do you want the caller to do if they dial 0 while listening to a user or group greeting? We've got ours to set to follow the incoming call selection. So that's going to jump back to this. And if somebody dials 0, it's going to send them back to our on hours IVR, or if we're closed, it's going to send them to the closed IVR. Okay. You can connect to a specific extension. You can turn off zero dialing. Okay. The other default settings in here are for operator extension. Anywhere you see this little icon in the portal, it'll tell you kind of what happens, right, during your company greeting. So this is a voicemail greeting. Where do we want these to go? Who's the fax recipient or SMS recipient if faxes or SMSs are sent to numbers that are assigned to this particular auto receptionist / site? Okay. Custom rules. Custom rules are very powerful, and they can do a lot of different things. They can be totally customized. You can see we have quite a few different things in here, depending on, these can be set up by a called number, somebody calling in with a specific number, caller ID or called number, or these can be set for dates and times. A lot of times when I'm setting up somebody's system from the beginning, we're talking about holidays, right? What are our holidays? So usually I'm going in here and I'm adding a specific custom rule, and I'm selecting date or time. And then I'm selecting a specific date range. Well, I know here in May, we're coming up on Memorial Day. It's usually the next big holiday. And you can see right here, when I automatically select it, it says it's from 12 a.m. to 12:01. Well, that's only going to be active for 1 minute. So what we do is we kick it over to the next day. So this just set all day on Memorial Day, it's going to be a holiday. Now, I just want to create one rule for all holidays. So the easiest way to do that is to simply just keep adding dates in here, right? After Memorial Day, the next one we're coming to here in the States is the 4th of July. Same thing, we want to make sure we set it all the way through on the 4th. Oops, and I chose June. It's not going to work. So let's go to July. Once you get all your holidays set in here, we simply hit the next key. And then we tell it where do we want it to go during that specific match. Excuse me. So for us, we're going to look for our holiday menu, matrix main holiday menus, right? So we simply select the menu they want it to go to, and we hit done. Once we selected our menu, we then get a summary, and it's going to tell you when this rule is going to be applied. And then typically I'm naming this something like holidays, right? Oops, and I'm not going to save this because we've already got one in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just cancel this. Whenever you're changing anything to do with custom rules, best practice is always run validate rules. It can happen where you get conflicting rules. And if you do, it'll tell you there's an error that you need to fix. This rule conflicts with that rule. So you're going to have to make an adjustment so they don't conflict. Okay.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
We do have a question from Annette, and I want to know if now's the time to cover it or you want to cover it later. She says, can you go back over how to get a number sent as a caller ID? I know the answer might depend on what type of number, whether it's a site, a call queue, a DID for a person, but
Yep.
Can you cover that quickly, or do you want to save it for later?
No, I can cover it real quick. So
Great.
the way RingCentral works with outbound caller ID, by default, every user has the ability to send their own direct dial number out as caller ID. However, if, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to send the company main number as caller ID, it needs to be, this number should be able to be called by, selected by anybody. A lot of times though, businesses have more than one number that's publicly listed for customers to call. And if that's the case, those additional numbers, they need to be assigned to a site. And I want to see a site number right there. And it doesn't look like we have any set up in here at the moment. Let me do this. So here we do, we have a couple for land intelligence. So you can see these numbers are from our land intelligence office down in California and up in Toronto. These numbers are pointed directly at the land intelligence site. You see this extension 3001 right here? If we go look at, you could land T, the site code is 30,001. When the number is assigned to a site, it then becomes available to be set as the outbound caller ID for your users. So if the number was assigned directly to a call queue, right down here, it's not available for your users. Like this number right here, this number would not be available for our users to use as outbound caller ID. It has to be assigned up at the site level. Once it's assigned at the site level, you then have the ability to go in here and create a custom rule. You can see there's 3 custom rules in the land intelligence site that points that phone number somewhere else. The US and Canadian number here. You can see date or time. We've got some specific stuff set up in here, but you can set this up for a specific called number and then force it down to your call queue. So the number still gets routes to the call queue, but it comes through the site. So it's then able to be used as outbound caller ID. If you have more questions on it, we can touch at the end as well. Okay, I think I covered the general settings. Dial by name directory. Obviously, everybody, you can turn this on or off if you want to have one. There is an overarching key that can be used in the user or group extension greetings, and you can see ours is set to 9. Everybody has the ability to choose whether you want to search by first or last name, and you can exclude extensions from the directory. So if the CEO, whoever, doesn't want to be listed in the directory, you simply go in here and edit the list and say who's out. Okay. A couple other things you can do if you have multiple sites and maybe you have different businesses, different business units, and they don't really cross paths anywhere. They're separate. When you create a separate site, you have the ability, users in the same site as the IVR menu. Users also get assigned to sites, and I'll show you that when we get to the users section. So what this says is, if a user is assigned to a specific site and somebody calls in and hits an IVR that's assigned to that site, they go to the directory, it's only going to search users that are part of that site. So it's not searching everybody in the company, it's only searching a select group of people. IVR menus, these function fairly normal, like most IVR menus. There is a couple things that are unique to RingCentral. You do have the ability here in the prompt section to use what's called speech to text. This can be really useful in a pinch. If you need to change something on the fly, you can simply go in here and do text to speech, put in what text you want RingCentral to use as your greeting, and go ahead and save it. Okay, so if you need to, this is available to you to change something quickly if you need to do that. Obviously, key presses here, whatever's going to happen in those IVR menus. You've got a full array of options, 1 through 0 here, 0 through 9. You could choose, add a key, what you wanted to do. Connect directly to a user, transfer to the voicemail of a user or a call flow element, connect to the dial by name directory, or you can externally transfer to offsite support, something like that. There is the notion of an IVR editor. I don't use this a lot. I'm more accustomed to doing it manually just by the way I program this, but you all have the ability to launch this and look at your IVRs. and you get a picture, and it's going to show you what it's going to do. So once you launch it, we're going to open an existing menu. So if we go to the Matrix main menu on hours, you're going to see what happens. It gives you a picture here. Calls come in, they hit our main IVR, it lists out some options, and it goes to some different queues here. Okay, so you can start to get a picture of this. You can modify and stuff inside of here. I don't do it. I'm more accustomed to doing it manually so I could double check it and make sure everything is correct, but you do have the ability to modify stuff in here. Prompts library. This is where all the prompts for your IVR menus are kept. Okay, so it's important that you name these appropriately so it makes it easy to identify what menus they're associated with. It's going to tell you here what menus are assigned. Same greeting can be assigned to multiple menus. You can see this one here. We've got 3 little dots after it. There is multiple menus assigned to this one. This is just a second of silence we use sometimes. Okay, so you can import these here. You can delete these here. I believe you have the ability to download these as well. If you wanted to store them somewhere else or use them somewhere else, you have the ability to do that as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about groups. We're going to touch on call queues. This is what RingCentral uses for call distribution, right? How do we get callers to multiple users at the same time? And so if we pick one of these, I'll pick the client success one to look at. So we can see here, we get some call queue details, the extension number, recorded name, who's got access, who can manage this box, right? Who has access to manage this? And if we click edit, it's going to show us who's able to manage this. And you can see in here, both Tim and I have full access to manage this. You can give other people in here, they don't have to have full access, but if you want other people to have certain access, member management, messaging, member management with forwarding, they've recently added some new items. There used to only be 3 items in here. I haven't even seen these yet, so they must have just done this recently. Member management here, if you just, and I'll talk to that in a second, and then message access. I'll talk to these. I haven't even seen this yet, so I'm not sure exactly what these do. I'm going to have to learn and gain some knowledge on these myself. So, but I'll talk about those just in here in just a second. So I'm not going to add anybody new. If we go down here, if there are any direct numbers assigned, they can be assigned in this section. You do have the ability to create a custom call queue greeting. Callers will hear this. This will play to the caller as they enter the queue. From there, it goes immediately into the audio while connecting. And you can see ours is set for ringtones. So the caller is going to hear ringing. Okay. We've got some custom on hold music enabled here that callers are going to hear if they're placed on hold by an agent when they're in the queue. Okay. The call handling and members section is really the meat and potatoes on what's happening in this call queue. Okay. So we've got how do we want to route the calls to members? We got a simple pop-up here. It gives you the 3 options that are available. Longest idle, so we've got 3 rings before we rotate to the next agent, okay? Wrap-up time, it gives our agents 15 seconds to type in whatever they need to in a CRM before another call is going to be delivered to them. This can be set at wherever you want, 0, and you've got all the way up to 5 minutes. Allow members to change their queue status, okay? Their queue status is right here. This allows them to log in and out of these queues, okay? So it gives you controls the member availability for client success queue, okay? You can see the members that are in the queue. These are all the people that are part of it. If you need to add a new one, it's here. All the members that are logged in and taking calls, they both of these have to be blue, okay? In order for an agent to receive a call. So you can see here, Stephanie, she's logged out of the member status, so she's not going to get calls. And it just gives you a little reminder here what's going to happen. Okay. Wait settings. Got some options in here. How many callers are allowed to queue up before the next caller is sent to this destination? So you can see ours is set at 10. If it ever exceeds that amount, it's going to send somebody right to voicemail. Maximum time a call can wait in queue. So ours is set at a minute. You can see this can be set all the way down to don't wait, all the way up to 15 minutes. I use these call queues sometimes as forwarders. So I will set something up, a call to ring into this queue, but then I immediately turn around and send it somewhere else. I set this don't wait. And I use this sometimes as I'm trying to recreate people's call queues or call flows to what they had maybe on a different phone system, and they're migrating over to RingCentral. There's a lot of thinking outside the box inside of RingCentral to make the phone system do something you want it to do, and it's not straightforward. So if you have questions like that, difficulty trying to get the phone system to do something, please reach out to Tim, client success team, your account rep, and we can help with that. I've got a lot of experience making RingCentral do things it wasn't necessarily designed to do. Maximum wait time. Once it's reached, where do you want the call to go? Okay, so after a minute, we're sending our call to voicemail. Okay, there is a notion of an overflow queue. So if you wanted this to flow to somebody else, if all of our users in the first work hours were busy, tied up, or logged out, you can set up an overflow. Okay, you get to choose what group you want it to overflow. It's going to overflow to whatever group you set up here, and you can put a maximum of 3. However, the initial timer still stays in place, that if nobody in these other queues is reached within a minute, it will still end up in the voicemail box for the originating client success call queue. Okay, so there can overflow and stuff can be set up if you need to. Display settings, yeah, I'm not making any changes. Normally I change this to the queue name, and I normally change this to the caller ID number. I'm not sure why it's not on ours. I like the queue name just because the people in the queue get a heads up. Hey, the call's coming from this particular queue, so they know how to answer it. And then I like to see the caller ID number typically, so that the user can easily call that number back if they need to. It's logged in their missed call history. If you have hours on your queue, you can see ours doesn't have hours. If there were hours set up in the call queue's details, you can set a schedule. You can set what to do after hours, okay? Just like an auto receptionist, we have custom rules. So these can have holidays, these can have forwarding rules, all the same options that we just talked about up in the auto receptionist section. You can do a custom rule in a call queue. Same custom rules go for user phones as well. One of the new things I'm going to talk about here that is fairly new down here in the settings section, co-recipients. RingCentral came out with this a number of months ago. It makes it easier for people that are assigned to these queues to be able to check the voicemails that have been left in queues. So if you set up a co-recipient, it allows this user to have a tab in their voicemail tab in their RingCentral client that says client success voicemail. All users see this, see the voicemails all at the same time. It's acting like a shared inbox. So if somebody leaves a voicemail, it's going to show up and notify Ashley and all the people in this list that there's a new message in the client success. When one person goes in and listens to it, it changes from a new message to a listened to message for all users. One user deletes it, it deletes it from all the other users' visibility. So it acts like a shared inbox. It makes managing voicemails for call queues much easier. However, if your call queues are receiving faxes, it doesn't show the faxes yet. So if you're using call queues to receive faxes, those users will still need to go and log into this call queue and view those faxes online at the RingCentral portal. Okay, couple other things I'm going to talk about in here. Call queues, message-only extensions, and announcement-only extensions are non-build. So you can have as many call queues and message-only and announcement-only extensions as you want to. So these are important as you need to create certain things inside your RingCentral for call flow. These don't cost anything to create. Another item in here that's often overlooked is limited extensions. This is a simple extension. You can see I've got a test Cisco ATA, something I was testing with in here. Most of the time, these are used for conference rooms and common area phones, like maybe you have a courtesy phone in the lobby. These are billed differently. They're billed at a lower rate from RingCentral. And the reason is they don't have a lot of functionality. It's basically a courtesy phone. People can call out from it. People can call into a direct number assigned to it. It does not have a voicemail box. It can't use the desktop application. It has no faxing or SMS capability. It's basically a courtesy phone. But for a conference room, that's most of the time, that's all you need. It just needs to be able to make an inbound and outbound call. Okay. One of the new features, there is a push to talk feature. So I don't know if any of you guys remember the old Nextel phones, but this is a paid feature. And for people that are out in the field, need to communicate, it functions similar to like a Nextel, where you're able to go into the application and push a button to quickly push to talk to another somebody else on the platform that also has the service. Phones and devices. I want to cover a section in here. There's always a lot of confusion about how do I change my user's phone. So the proper way to do it is to go into the phones and devices section and find the user that you want to change their phone. So you can see here, we've got Annie Architect set up, and they've got a RingCentral phone application. So let's say I wanted to, instead of using the phone app, Annie Architect needs a desk phone. So we simply click on the device and we start right here with change phone, okay? We go through and we can either purchase a new phone, we can bring your own SIP device, or most of the time you've got another phone lying around that's an existing phone that you're no longer using. It's unassigned from somebody else. So we simply hit next and we can go through the process here and we can pick one of our phones that are in the unassigned phone section. So for this case, I can go ahead and select this unassigned phone that was part of our account. I simply scroll down and hit next. At this point, it's telling you you're going to swap out the phone app to a physical phone. Now, this doesn't take away the functionality of the desktop application. They can still use the desktop application, because remember, in RingCentral, you can have a desk phone, you can have a desktop application, you can have a mobile app, you can run it in the browser. You have a lot of different options on how to connect and use the phone through RingCentral. This is simply saying this user now wants to have a physical phone on their desk. So how do we do it without incurring any charges or adding additional numbers or anything to this user to make this happen? So we go in and do a swap, and we simply say swap, phones were swapped. Once we swap the phone, it's gonna reload, and it brings us in, and now it shows Annie Architect as an existing phone, okay? Same thing goes in reverse order. If you have a user, they say, I don't know, I no longer need this phone. I'm happy using the soft phone device. To unassign the phone, we simply go back in, we change the phone again, and we say RingCentral phone. Use the RingCentral desktop phone app, follow through the process. Yep, we're going to acknowledge it. And we're going to set the emergency response location, and we simply confirm it. And now we've effectively removed the physical device from this account. And when you do that, it brings you back into the physical device and says, okay, what do you want to do with it, right? But it's in the unassigned section. So that effectively just moved it right back down to unassigned, where we assigned it from in the first place, okay? Emergency calling. Not long ago, or was it last year, beginning of last year, they made some changes with E911, Kerry's Law, and Ray Baum's Act. This emergency response locations has a lot to do with it. So what RingCentral did is they set these all up. So you can have separate sites, right? But sometimes people have multiple floors in a building or multiple suites in a building. Well, in order to accomplish that, we go in here and we create emergency response locations. So if we want to add one, you can see, you can put a nickname like main site, 26th floor, and you would select your main site. And then you go ahead and put in the address, say name, address, and everything, and you put your suite number, 26th floor, and you go ahead and save it. This gives you the ability to split up your users that work on, let's say, the 26th floor versus the 25th floor, right? So you can automatically assign the correct emergency response location, so the emergency responders go to the right floor and not just the right building. Does that make sense? Okay, user management. When we first get into the user management portal, it brings us to our users with extensions. And we're going to talk about RingCentral recently came out with a new feature that I found out about not too long ago, which makes swapping users out so much easier. So let's say any architect left the company and you're working on getting a replacement. The first step to do so, as soon as any architect leaves the company, we're going to go ahead and we're going to disable this extension. Okay. So it says they won't be able to make or receive calls on their account or line. This way, it removes access from Annie. Annie can't log in from the soft phone, mobile apps, any of that kind of stuff at that point. When we have our new replacement, there's a setting. If we slide the bar over here, to go in here to the action button, and we can reset and assign. Okay, so I'm not going to do this on this particular extension, but if we do this, it's going to wipe out all the information from Annie Architect. You're going to put in the new user's first name and email address, and it's going to send them the welcome email so they can sign in and set up the new extension. The old process before they had this was to delete the user, and then you had to recreate the user from scratch. Well, that left a lot of programming and legwork to do, especially if they're assigned voicemail delegates and if they're in one-touch options and auto attendance, or if they're members of call queues and things like that. So RingCentral got this feature here, reset and assign, makes it a lot easier to assign a new person. Okay. One of the other things that comes into play here also is history. Some companies may have certain rules around laws, and laws around what information has to be kept, right? About employees, recorded calls, things like that. Okay, if we do a reset and reassign, any information that was part of Annie goes away. But if we needed to keep all that information in our system for a certain amount of time, and we needed to kind of just log it and have it in the background, instead of deleting and reassigning, this would involve recreating the extension, but what you can do is knock the license down. The Ring EX is what they're calling the new full-featured RingCentral license, right? This has a phone number, has access to all the features in RingCentral. You can simply go in here and edit the license type and move this to what we call a free user, a Video Pro user, okay? And we're not going to add on any additional licenses, and we're going to go ahead and update this. Okay, it takes away the phone number, puts the phone number into our inventory so you can reuse it for a new user later. She's disabled, so they cannot use the extension, but this will keep all the call history and call recordings attached to the system. And this is a non-build extension at this point, a Video Pro. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about roles. Roles are something, they all come with predefined roles, okay? From those predefined roles, you can go in and create a custom role, okay? So if we create a new role, it asks you to create a starting point. So usual starting point, it could be standard international is what RingCentral starts most users out at when they first get set up. So you can go ahead and simply name it whatever you want to call it, put a description on what options you've changed. From there, you get to go in and modify. Okay, I don't want them to be able to do any international dialing. I don't want them to do premium dialing. I don't want them to be able to block calls. You get to change this. Well, maybe this particular set of users, you don't want them to be able to change their call handling. You can, or change their outbound caller ID. You can lock a lot of these settings and features in so they don't have the ability to change anything, okay? As you scroll through here, a lot of this is management stuff. As far as the phone system goes, normal users wouldn't have access to this anyway. You don't want them to be able to get into analytics. Down here, if you don't want them to be able to use SMS, we can simply turn these features off. So it's at your control. How do you want them to log in? Maybe you don't want them to ever log into the desktop app or the mobile app. You can take away these things here. So if you removed all these, it's only going to give them, they only have the ability to use a desk phone. They cannot log in anywhere or do anything in any of the apps. Okay, what do they have access to? Okay, user call log. Delete records. Well, maybe some users, we don't want them to delete their call records. We want to be, as managers, we want to be able to see those call records and keep an eye on those, right? Access recordings if they're being recorded, yeah, okay, but they don't have the ability to delete. If you take delete records away, they can't delete anything. They can listen to them, they can't delete them. Download. Maybe it's proprietary stuff and you don't want to allow anybody to download anything out of the call log, call recordings, things like that. I'm not going to go ahead and create this rule. Okay, so you can create custom rules for specific users. User groups, this is kind of for like managers to give them the access settings and call logs of other people they may manage. So you can see we have an operations department in here. Beth was set up as the manager, and you can see she can manage and access call recordings, things like that for the people that she's set to manage. Templates. I use this one a lot when I'm helping clients migrate over to RingCentral. So the main one I use is user settings. You go ahead and create. These can be very powerful. Let's say you need to change one setting system-wide. Okay, you can simply go in and create a new user settings, user setting template. So we're just going to call it test. And when you create this by default, it's not updating anything. But somebody mentioned caller ID earlier. Okay, maybe we want to change the caller ID at our whole company to send out a certain number. And we'll just pick this number here. So we go in by phone when they call out and we select override user settings. This whole template, everything in this template, all the settings that are available, everything is set to not override at the moment. So you can go in here and choose however many items you want to override. So if I just want to use override when somebody calls out by phone on all my users, I simply save this. Once it's saved, I can back up here and I said, we got the test. We simply click it and we hit apply, and then we tell the system who we want it to apply to. So when you apply it to a user, it's going to go through and change the outbound caller ID on every user for you all at once. So you're not having to do it manually. And that goes for any setting that's in the users section. So any setting for any user, you can override them and change them here by creating a template. There is a notion of call handling templates, which will just adjust the call handling keys on the phones. There's also one for call queues. If you have a lot of call queues that need to function the same way, you can do it here. And same thing for a limited extension. Okay, let's see. Meetings. I want to touch on this real quick. Those of you that use, I'm not going to touch on the recording management section. I'm going to really touch down here where it says meeting settings. If your users are using meetings, you as the administrator have the ability to go in here and set some default settings that everybody is going to adhere to, right? What do you want the users to be able to do? How do you want your meetings to act when your users are hosting meetings, okay? There's a lot of different things in here. Sometimes this section gets overlooked, but it's important that you as the admin have control and set these default settings, what people can and can't do in the meetings and how it functions, okay? Same thing goes for webinars if you're using it to host webinars. Report section. There is a call log section here. This can be very useful in troubleshooting. Somebody said they had a bad call, or they wanted to know how a call got to them because it didn't seem like it should have ever gotten to them. They give you the information. This is fully searchable. And you can see it goes back the last 7 days, last 60 days. You can go back as far as you want to in here. Okay, this is a simple view, right? If we click over to the detailed view, and you can see I saw some of them in progress, right? So this is going to show you live calls going on here. Looking for one that might have more information on it to drop down. A lot of these look like direct calls. And you can see recordings, right? Since we are recording all calls at Matrix, me as myself as an admin, I have the ability to go in here and look at these call recordings. But you get to see exactly what call came in, where it came from, what it rang into, who handled the call, lots of different things here. You also have the ability to do the same thing if you're using SMS. SMS, inbound, outbound. You can download the history, how many SMSs, who they're going back and forth through, and it kind of keeps a running log. Analytics
2 minutes,
section,
Matt. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Not a lot of time in the analytics section. There is a lot of new features in here you can do, but one thing as admins I want to touch on real quick is the call quality service. You may get people saying, I'm having trouble with calls, things aren't acting as they should, the calls aren't sounding good. This is very easy to go in and track down these calls. It gives you an overview of today's calls. You can set this range as far back as you need to go, okay? Inside of here, it's going to show you at a quick glance what these calls were and whether or not they were good or bad, right? You can see right here, T-Mobile, I've got some problems with call legs on T-Mobile. If you click in it, it's going to show here information about that call. This probably wasn't a very good example because the call didn't last very long. So if I go look at yesterday, do I have anything different? Here we go. We got this one here. We got some packet loss on this call. You can see from our employee Mario to RingCentral, and then you can see from the caller side, the PSTN side. So you can see Mario's down in New Zealand and he's working on Wi-Fi. So there's definitely something going on this call that can be investigated, but it gives you a lot of good details to start looking. I'd start probably here that wherever he's at, he's connecting 100% on Wi-Fi. He's not plugged in. So I might start there as a troubleshooting technique and then work my way back. Let's get him plugged in because we know Wi-Fi can be a little suspect. So okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up because I was given the 2-minute mark. So I will let you take back over, Tim, and